guaranteed by the very same Constitution
Chapter
of
11.
Jamaica.
I need to. It's not chapter
So
11.
13.
Chapter 13.
13.
Oh,
13.
chapter 13. Okay.
Yeah. Amended in 2011. So 11 is in your mind.
Okay. Oh, it's chapter. Oh, yeah.
Chapter
2011.
13.
But
Right.
just to say that coming to the amendment in 2011 took years of consultation.
Yes.
It was a long process. Yeah.
So Pastor Percival and I are going to discuss the significance of the ruling, what it means in law, in the spirit, socially, and what would be the likely next steps.
Do you think there are next steps that are coming?
Yes, there are next steps, given how the court addressed it. The story so far, the Jamaican Constitution, given to us in 1962, contained what is generally known as a savings clause. This is a clause which the colonial masters had put in, saying certain place up to 1962 could not be challenged as being unconstitutional by reason of Jamaica's independence and new management of their own affairs.
Okay.
And to make it relatable, I would just say that having given us charge of our own affairs, the Crown did not want us to use that independence to unravel all the things they had put in place in the exercise of our own, independence, and disturb pre-existing arrangements which worked well for them and, in their opinion, which worked well for us. Mm-hmm. So an example I like to give is the Constitution says you pay your creditors first. They didn't want us to go in and change up the laws addressing fiscal management to reorganize how we do things and leave them and the creditors, which were, I would say, of importance to them, leave them in the lurch. And there were other acts.
As you said that, I found that so very ironic in terms of being fiscally prudent. But we went off the rails many times, and even though it was there, and it's 7 o'clock, I'm just thinking about it,
Oh, yes. Is it time for our first break?
Yes. But it just, like a bird fly.
You caught it. You caught it. Because, so this is how you hold something together.
Yeah.
You give a man a thing, but you say, you can't change this, you can't change that. You might say you can't change it for the first 10 years, or you set some parameters so that you don't have a massive upheaval and it's chaos and confusion. So a savings clause was put in our Constitution. We're going to take our 7 o'clock break. When we come back, we'll see what does the savings clause have to do with buggery. Plenty, apparently.
Best 100 FM is the authentic voice of Jamaica, promoting your prosperity with better vibes and better music. Let us promote your goods and services for you. Advertise with us. For more information, call our office at 876-276-8935. That's 276-8935.
This is your beloved Pastor Percy from the Morning Connection. Support our commitment to Jamaica by joining us on Wednesday mornings at 7:30 when we pray for the nation. Show us you care. Advertise with us. For more information, call our offices at 876-276-8935.
Welcome back. I have touched on an issue that I tell you, even in the break, Pastor Percy wouldn't let it go. I hope he remembers the brilliant points that he was making to me. So that, yes, so he can share them with you. So we were just setting the stage to usher in the discussion. A savings clause is a necessary thing to ensure continuity. You know, weeks ago, Percy and I spoke about the laws of the Medes and Persians. How did this empire manage to hold itself together? Because a law that is made cannot be changed. There's only one king. Whoever is sitting on the throne is king, and he is faithful to what the one before him did. And when the other one succeeds him, he's faithful to what he did. So you end up with an unending line of continuity, each one respecting the throne. So the power is in the throne, it's not in the man who sits on it.
Which is something that we see in the U.S. in terms of Mr. President.
The peaceful transfer of power until Mr. Trump came.
Right.
And it showed them that Mr. Trump is a very interesting, disruptive force, which is to be admired as well as to be studied and understood.
No, it is.
And feared. It's equal measures of fear and admiration.
So we need to, not go up there. So we'll go that would lead us down another place.
You prefer to resume your discussion on buggery.
Yeah.
So Jamaica had a savings clause in its constitution to ensure that there would be continuity and naturally some high levels of scrutiny attached to how you make any change to the constitution. Well, so we thought until our government changed the constitution overnight for the DPP.
So
even that example recent happenings tells you that
It
where
can't be
there
done.
is a will,
There is a way.
there is a definite way that is not humbugged by the traps and technicalities of process. So,
We'll
when
soon
it
get a
comes
ruling,
to,
remember that going to court November 14th.
yeah, but the ruling will come just like the ruling that Kamina Johnson-Smith got for her Commonwealth caper. I've not seen the decision in that one, only heard it. I haven't hunted it down as yet, but you do know that yesterday it was disclosed in the media that the court ruled in her favor.
That you never needed to.
No, I don't know. They said that there was no breach.
No breach. Okay.
Yes. There
All
was
right.
no breach. So one would have to look to see how they
ruled
set it to say there was no breach. Because all of us know that until it was disclosed in some very, public way, there had been no declaration
By these people.
by these people or by the minister herself of how her campaign was funded. So in those
Thank God for the media.
circumstances, the court saying there is no breach invites a careful scrutiny of what rule were they looking at and what is considered a breach. The bottom line, as you and I were saying, is that when there is an overall sentiment that things need to go a particular way, you see the decisions, it's like the decision is written and then a rationale is created to legitimize the decision.
Right. But as we were talking about that off camera,
Yes.
off mic,
Yeah.
and we're talking about just the whole understanding and the morality, because I was saying to you, you said it, and I said, but it's true that even if persons, the court rule one way, and the people feel another way, the way that the people feel
will carry the day.
They carry the day.
Yeah.
And then
yeah.
you made a point that that court ruling could have gone another way, because we've seen it happen in other jurisdictions
Yes.
in terms of the bent of the court. So that is why, for example, in the States, you're going to get certain decisions from the Supreme Court
Yes, absolutely.
based
Saw
on
it.
the complement of the persons who sit on the Supreme Court. It's 9 justices them have. It's 9 high level.
I don't remember.
It-
Please
it-
don't
it-
test me on it.
No, but it's
I know
it's
about
just
our court.
Yeah.
We have 5.
Or Supreme Court
On
is
our-
5.
Full court is
It's
5,
5, right.
maximum of 5, but 3 can sit.
Right,
And
so-
and a full bench in the
Can some 5 people sitting up on a bench and listen? That's
Yeah.
I'm looking at it.
a full
and-
bench in the Court of Appeal is 3 judges.
Right. So,
Yeah.
but it is based on the philosophical underpinnings of the persons and how they see the law. Because, in the States, there's one school that says, apply the law as you see it. Another school that says, no, way it is written, we need to be more progressive and social, do social engineering. So,
But you've raised a nice sidebar because we talk about the rule of law.
yes.
The rule of law as a principle says whatever the law is, it is applied equally across the board to all citizens
Should
of
be.
similar circumstances. No, that is the rule of law, that it is applied. That's what you subscribe to. A belief, a principle, a position that law applies equally in a democracy. I'm speaking of a democracy.
Yeah.
That law applies to persons of similar circumstances across the board. That's what makes the rule of law useful as a tool for social order.
So to making sure that the tensions, that they don't
Are
disrupt
managed
into-
and yes, there's no
But
chaos.
when you have a dictator take it over and just
Then he is the law and what he says is what goes.
him just say that I would say that happening in a lot of countries now.
And the rule of law in those situations mean whatever I say goes. I am the law.
Are we heading
and
there?
I rule.
That's another sidebar. But
Yeah,
are we
no, we
heading
can't
there?
have too many sidebars,
this
even though
morning.
it's free-flowing Thursday. I can only juggle 2 or 3.
Yeah, okay.
So I was bringing the rule of law into the conversation we're having. So Jamaica, subscribing to the rule of law, subscribing to a democracy that is built on constitutionality, meaning we have a written document, and that document is the covenant through which we organize public life and through which we understand private rights. Our Constitution, though gifted to us, has been under review and even deeper review now. So we are also committed to processes of reform. We're not like the Medes and Persians who say once made, that is the law. We institutionalize reform. And Bevan Fairweather says it's 9 justices for America. So all of that process at the top of the structure is to give the mass of people at the bottom a
sense
place.
of certainty that they can go and
you can go through a process and bring
justice,
change.
and get real justice.
And bring change. Change is what's important, not so much justice, because you as long as you're content with what you're getting, things will run. But when you are not content, you must know that there is a process through which I can change what displeases me in my society. So the process of law reform and the institution of judges who sit to interpret law. Now, the interpretation of law is itself a different process from writing law.
That's true.
Laws are written in Parliament, and the laws are written to capture what lawmakers say is in the best interest of the people they represent. So you write it. Then, as a check and balance on Parliament, the judiciary independently interprets the law. Now, what you're looking for is a coincidence of what the judges say the law means and what the parliamentarians wrote as representing the will of the people.
You'd make that as representing the will of the people.
Yes.
But let me
so the judges, if Parliament wrote something and there is a lack of clarity because it has come to the court. If there's no lack of clarity, it won't come to the court because everybody know what it means and just move accordingly.
So a case in point would be the DPP.
Her position, yes.
So the lack of clarity by the opposition has
taken it to court.
And says, well, the government, the parliament go and say one thing.
Right.
And they use their power of majority to push something
push it through.
And then the guys come and say, hold on.
In a manner and with an effect that somebody says is not consistent with the will of the people. That's not what we meant when we said a DPP should be no older than 60 and can continue for 5 years, but that's the maximum. We want DPPs to be young and agile, and we want to foster succession planning in the department, and we don't want the good people to get frustrated and leave because by the time they get to the job, they can only do 2 or 3 years because one DPP ate up 20 years. Did you see? Is a lot of factors that come into it, not all of them based on anything to do with legal competence.
But then...
So says one side.
The people, through their elected representatives,
yes,
and based on the wisdom then says, 7 years is a good time. And if needs be, we give you 5. It's like 3 score and 10, and by strength of days, they get 10 more good. But
that's the cap.
Right. But then those persons in the parliament, that's why I'm telling people motivation is not a nice thing, wrong motive.
No, motive it's brilliant to understand that motive matters. So you never look at a thing without questioning motive.
The motives. And that is why people are questioning that, and the opposition rightly have said, let me go see if that is what the intention. So bravo to them in terms of what they've done.
To challenge it.
To challenge.
Yes. And this is what I advocate. Challenge, challenge, challenge. Anywhere there is a lack of clarity, because this is the process for change. You don't necessarily have to wait for a general election to change your leadership and change your MP in order to get what you want out of the system. Because there are other institutions set up which, if properly used, can bring about a shift that would spread and give you the effect you're looking for. So let's go back to buggery law.
Okay.
Jamaica, very conservative society. We keep saying it these days for one reason or another. It seems to be a relevant fact. More churches per square mile than anywhere else in the world. So says Guinness Book of World Records, because it mattered for somebody to count it.
But I would
So
say
we are strongly influenced by fundamental Bible beliefs. Man and woman, that's what constitutes marriage. Sex involves the use of the body parts meant for procreation. So two individuals who can't produce fruit.
I won't say. I won't say.
Okay, so no sword fight. So
sword fight.
we're very conservative in our ideas about sex and about intimacy and so on and so forth. The majority of us are. And I believe that this decision from the court reinforces that. That majority of us are. We're not liberal in our outlook, in our thinking. No. We're happy to watch other people on TV going about their business. But when it comes down to it, and I say this because on any reading of the plain meaning of the words, our maintaining a law that criminalizes what is considered sexual activity between men, two men, we in Jamaica have categorized it as gross as a particular activity. And to show how little we think of it, we'll tie it up with bestiality. So the provisions in the Offenses Against the Persons Act, which deal with buggery, run along with bestiality. Rights and freedoms of the Jamaican people needed to be documented, needed to be put in law. We continued with a savings clause which exempted from the meaning of these fundamental rights and freedoms the activities in the Offenses Against the Persons Act, which we considered to be acts of gross indecency. Sexual offenses. We said whatever we are calling sexual offenses at this point in our life will remain as sexual offenses, notwithstanding these fundamental rights and freedoms. So that was at the heart of the case, which the judges had to consider.
And what was it? It was 2, 2, and 3. What it was?
All right, let's take the break. When we come back,
it was a full court. Welcome back to the Morning Connection. We have been just reviewing the ruling made by the Supreme Court in regards to the Morris Tomlinson case that he brought in regards to Buggery law. Is that the Buggery law? That's what it is. Buggery law.
Yes, the argument, we're talking about the Buggery law, but really, in the technical, the way the case was presented, the gentleman filed a claim to say that
Right,
the criminalization of what homosexual men do for sex is a breach of his fundamental rights and freedom.
Okay.
They discriminate against him practicing what he conscientiously believes to be a legitimate expression of love. And his freedom to associate with the person he has chosen to be his intimate partner. And it is fixing him to selecting only one gender as a spouse and so on and so forth. The next level, would also to say that the Marriage Act is unconstitutional to the extent that it only recognizes marriage between men and women and so on and so forth. So you can see the trajectory.
Where it was going.
So he started by just at the foundation. When the case came before the court, it was being argued that the savings clause in the Constitution, which prevents one from challenging certain laws on the ground of unconstitutionality, that savings clause, it was argued, prevented Mr. Tomlinson from launching an attack on the constitutionality of the Buggery law.
Right.
The court decided at the Court of Appeal level, it went to the Court of Appeal, and the Court of Appeal said the court should look at that issue first. Don't try the whole case together.
Separate it. So it was
because
separated.
if the savings clause prevents a challenge to the Buggery law, there's no case.
And so that is what has happened.
So it came back down to the full court, and the full court looked at the narrow issue of whether or not
the savings clause applied.
The savings clause applied.
And they agreed.
And the court agreed.
So that means he's been stopped in his tracks.
So he's been stopped in his tracks on a somewhat technical point. Nobody had to look at whether or not there was a conflict between a law that says what you do as consenting adults is a criminal act versus the fundamental rights and freedoms, which say you are free to associate and to express yourself.
That's interesting. So,
and the reason I think it had to go that way, Percy, is because it is obvious that the Buggery law criminalizes conduct which is being practiced between consenting adults.
Okay.
So that was I think when I spoke to you about it, and we spoke on air also, it obviously conflicts. So the only issue would be whether or not he was free to make that attack on it.
Yeah, but
so the savings clause saved the day.
According to the thing.
Yeah.
But it raises though a question which is where I want us to go off on this. We're not going on a rabbit hole. Let me just make that very clear. Not a rabbit hole. In terms of a bigger principle, which is, okay now, if the laws are saying one thing and the people generally disagree with the law, what do you think will happen?
That's why law reform is a necessary part of your constitutional arrangements and your social practice or your governance structure, which we were doing lip service in large measure to law reform. But I think the focus on constitutional reform is now making it very clear that we have to take seriously the business of law reform. If you remember, I had gone through how the Justice Ministry set up, and we had spoken on air about the division which looks at law reform. And I am very impressed that the ministry which was carved out for Minister Malahoo Fort carries that. It's that division.
So they're going to be well funded now.
Constitutional reform. Well, we don't know. That is a separate discussion. But
I know it's a separate discussion.
But in terms of government structure, adjusting its shape to give primacy to a very necessary part of the job they carry. That's been done. There's now a ministry that is supposed to be accomplishing those things.
You mean like, so that came about, I would say this is my personal thing, not with the right motivation.
Well,
because of this constitutional and the monarch kind of thing. But I'm saying to us, if we're going to do constitutional reform, let it not.
I'm going to quote the Apostle Paul to you. So long as Christ is preached.
So as long as constitutional reform is being preached.
Listen to me. You set it up, you start it, you have a tiger by the tail. You cannot determine where it goes. Because very soon in this nation, very soon, well-thinking Jamaicans are going to begin to fund their own public discussions, their own talk shows, their own public consultations on issues that they want to change. Lobbying, maybe, I won't tell you how many years ago I tried to persuade the law firm where I was at the time that they should start a department that looks at just lobbying for change of law, for change of policy, lobbying both at the private sector level and at the public sector level. Develop the expertise in knowing who you can influence and educate to bring about change at fundamental levels in your society.
You mean a replication of what happens in America with the lobbyists?
They have lobbyists that
are paid to change law.
And a lot of them are lawyers.
Yeah, it's true. It is so true.
Because the training that lawyers have. So I was trying to influence my law firm at the time. I said, this is a new direction that it's new for Jamaica, but everywhere in the world there's
lobbyists. And they are the persons who really write laws because they have the ear of the decision makers
and they know the technical details of how to bargain.
Yeah, and give me that. And
absolutely. And they develop a network of persons who they can trade to bring about change.
We have it now. We have it though, you know.
I know. I wanted it to be open.
We have it though, you know.
Yeah.
You know, we have it.
But yeah, man, the veranda, the rum bar. Yeah.
But boy, I tell you, me thinking too much.
So it was to break it out of that mold and give it respectability,
transparency,
because lobbyists have to be registered
and people know
who you're representing and can find you. So if someone know they need to, lobby for a change here or there, they know who's the expert, who has the relationships and the expertise in that area.
But in Jamaica, we really don't know.
No, it's kept as a secret. So only 10 persons.
And that brings just into sharp focus the recent removal of GCT.
From the horse racing industry.
Versus the
that is highly effective lobbying.
No, what I'm saying.
Vervance gave us an interpretation of it yesterday.
No, but it's true. So it brings into focus how we need to go, what we need to change. If, as we have been saying for a very long time, this constitution that we have is not representative of the will of the people in terms of a lot of things that are there. And because it has not really worked for many Jamaicans.
So I want to share with you one of the findings of one of the judges on the panel, and just see if it's worth giving some deeper thought. In the case, it became important what is a sexual offense. Is it just an activity unlawfully committed which involves the use of certain body parts, or must it capture the motive and the intention of the actors? Is it something being done for sexual pleasure or manipulation or whatever? So the definition of a sexual offense was important. Two positions were being put. One side says sexual offense is to be broadly defined to capture all of the modern and innovative ways that people express themselves sexually. This is my language. So
it's not the language in the...
No. Lawyers don't generally speak like that. And it takes way more time to say what they did. But they said, interpret it broadly. This is government. Government not being conservative now, because government want to capture buggery in sexual offense. So government says it must be broadly defined to capture the many innovative expressions of your sexual identity. Mr. Tomlinson's counsel said it is narrow. It must follow the traditional definitions used in the other acts that are enforced in Jamaica, and it certainly must include the opposite gender. It must include the body parts traditionally recognized as being used in sexual congress, and in matters pertaining to savings clause and human rights, the human rights provisions must be generously interpreted to give people maximum right, and limitations on those rights must be narrowly interpreted to ensure that you don't trespass on the right. You get it? Okay. Then they look at how buggery is addressed in the law. There are sexual offenses which are known and are set out and are, enumerated in a particular way. Then there is a gross indecency category, and
they went to a whole heap of stuff.
Yes, so they're saying the law did not position buggery as a sexual offense. It positioned it as an unnatural act, meaning sex is natural, buggery is unnatural.
Correct.
It positioned it as an unnatural act amounting to a gross indecency and an affront to human decency and sensibilities. Therefore, it's not sex.
So that's how...
That's the two sides. What did the judge say? The judge says buggery is sex. She said buggery is a sexual offense. She says buggery cannot be defined as sexual intercourse based on the common law definition of it. However, it does involve sexual interaction
between two males.
Between two males. And Parliament has criminalized this conduct.
And this
section has not been repealed. It's been saved.
But listen to, although the wording of the section may have originated from the Bible,
yes,
and was first viewed as a crime against decency and morality.
So you see, it was never viewed as a sexual offense. It was viewed as a crime against decency and morality. She said, I find that buggery and bestiality are sexual offenses. So she just jumped at the whole gulf, ravine, chasm between two streams of thought and just merge them. Such is the power of the judicial thinking.
Okay.
So she has found that it's a sexual offense, but she understands and accepts that it's not sex.
Okay.
You follow?
Yeah, man.
How is it a sexual offense?
It's offensive to the people.
In her defense, I said she may well be accepting that the homosexual men think it's sex.
Right.
So if they think it's sex,
it's all right to them.
We say it's offensive.
Oh, boy.
That's, but you see what I'm describing here? Normally, you could track the mutation of an idea from one extreme place to another by just...
But she has not allowed that.
She just jumped. She said it don't match the definition of sexual intercourse. It has always been understood as falling in a different category.
But even though you think so, we not think so.
But she just made it sexual without reference, because she could say any number of things. Perhaps it will be appealed. If I were Mr. Tomlinson, I would appeal it. But for you and me discussing it, we are acknowledging that the ruling matches the sentiment of the people
at this point, the general sentiment.
I do not believe Jamaicans are at the place where they regard homosexual interaction as natural. We are still saying it is against the nature, the laws of nature as set by our Creator.
And you have to take that into mean, because whether you like it or not, even though we people say, we have so many churches per square mile, and we have walked away from alignment with what God it says. There are some things we don't move this yet. All right. As we talk about the rule of law in our country.
All right, but please, let's share what she said about Section 79. I mean, this one is Section 79 now of the Offenses Against the Persons Act deals with bestiality and procuring acts of gross indecency. She says the final section, Section 79, refers to gross indecency, attempts to commit gross indecency, as well as procurement to commit the said offense. These offenses had been originally listed as offenses against morality and decency. Note, they're not sexual offenses. It can be argued that proof with regards to these offenses fell into the category of strict liability, where a court need not take into consideration whether the parties are consenting. Strict liability offenses are like when you break the road laws, you drive too fast. From you see you're driving too fast, nobody have to consider what caused you to be doing it.
Okay.
You're liable.
Good.
So she's saying when proof is offered that adult A tried to importune adult B, it don't matter if they are consenting adults. From you see two men in a certain move, they have committed an offense.
Wow.
She then says, I find that those offenses, just as with the 76 and 77, are sexual offenses. And as such, the savings clause apply.
She does. Okay. And she gone.
And she done with that.
She does fix myself the lawyer for the other side.
Yeah.
Interesting. But even it's, as we talk about law and the rule of law and how it applies for us, let's talk about the law and corruption.
No, you had raised that with me concurrent to this discussion, because I was saying that on the matter of buggery, I believe most Jamaicans, if woken up in the night and asked, if you wake up someone in the night and ask them, what do you think about this?
Them take your opinion.
Most Jamaican going vomit.
Yeah.
I believe that. I do believe that. So the decision of the court, however they came to it, I believe it accords with the will of the people.
Yeah.
As it currently sits.
Correct.
Yes. Now, when it comes to corruption, successive polls, or at least one major poll, I'm thinking, offered a conclusion that Jamaicans, in making political decisions, don't take that into account. I believe that is true. And I was saying to you, I was putting forward my theory. When it comes to politicians who are perceived to be persons of power and influence,
and get a buy.
I believe that the average Jamaican believe that that's what they do. So I don't measure them based on that, because all of them do it. So I can't choose over A or B on the basis of corruption. I make my decision on politics without factoring in corruption, because they're all corrupt.
Do you think that as it's changing though?
Is it changing? I don't know. But what I believe is that the level of corruption is such now that persons may be saying it is interfering with the ability to achieve good governance.
Yeah, and I think that's where it becomes we're at the tipping point.
Yes, they need to take care of it.
Because as yesterday,
Percy, I'm going to take the opportunity now, as I see the lady arrive, to just notify our listeners that JPS is back. And that announcement was more so the producer would find the lady. She's wearing her 100 JPS shirt, and she just went over there. And yeah, we'll tell you what we're going to be discussing with JPS today. But for the moment, we're still on the issue that Percy has booked. This is Percy's issue. So I think when it comes to politicians and corruption, Jamaicans believe that that's a part of the package. But when it starts to interfere with good governance,
and then
I
pocket
believe
too.
there.
And
I
then
think
pocket,
we have
and then pocket
and
and then
our
pocket
pocket
and
that's
our
true,
pocket
and
as-
our pocket.
They to say that
We're saying maybe them gone too far now. We need to dial it in, and that's why when you hear people speak about the rejection of PNP and JLP, it's a rejection of a certain behavior that cuts across party lines.
correct.
They're saying so. It's not that we don't care about corruption because we're corrupt people. We're actually very moralistic, very conservative in our view on various matters. And between us on the ground, we are rigid and almost harsh with each other when rules are broken between people of equal standing. But we have always elevated the powerful
Give them a blind.
and given them the
them a
right
pass
to
to do
apply
that.
different rules.
Is
Yeah.
that something that has come down to us psychologically
Well, it is a
from
remnant
slavery
of slavery, of course.
and self-esteem? Because
yeah.
I have a friend who says, and this is himself, he can't understand it. The politician do all manner of evil, and on the ground them accuse them and wicked and thing. And then that same politician come and give you a little money and pat you on the shoulder and say him goodie, and you give him a pass in that instant.
Yeah.
Without even saying,
Remembering that he's
just
the
1 week
source of
ago.
your trauma.
Just 1 week ago, that same man
Yeah.
did that. I know him come talk to me, me feel like, oh wow, I did the greatest thing since sliced bread. And that has to change. Because now, you know, even as we're running towards the break.
We're running towards it?
The break rapidly.
Or the break is running towards us.
Whichever one. It is coming though. It's not going away. I overheard a conversation. Calder was talking about the whole thing of transparency and what's happening in Parliament, how the rules are changing in terms of the Integrity Commission and the tabling of their reports. To say, now they are saying that the special reports and things need to go to the Parliamentary Oversight Committee for the Integrity Commission before it is tabled in the House. Where that come from? And that has come as a ruling with the new speaker.
Let me tell you something. Well, we need a day to discuss the new speaker. Because, that ruling concerning treatment of Integrity Commission reports, which is an echo of what the last speaker said and was actually the nail in our coffin. So I just wondered if the current speaker wasn't mindful of repeating the same pattern. But you know what? Patterns exist because they are irresistible.
They are irresistible. But it is
When
only
you see a pattern, it's like you're drawn to it.
it's only a fool who does repeat the mistake of the past. And I mean say it today.
Or a person of faith who expect a different result because they've invited a divine presence into their circumstances.
But God is a God of justice and righteousness and truth and mercy. And when you go against that, you go against God. And that is a standard that I just use. It's not a PNP or JLP. It is it's a kingdom issue. And I'm saying, come on. Have we not seen where that kind of behavior in terms of how we deal with matters that concern governance, where it has gotten us? That's why we are here today.
Well, I recognize that the pitch was laid for this current speaker walked onto a pitch that was set. Her room for play is very limited, whether she knows it or not. She may feel
that she have room. She has very little room. And her only salvation really lies in doing what is right. Yes. doing what
It's
is
8
right.
o'clock, as Percy said. The time was. What did you say? It was running
towards
us, or coming to whatever it is. It's here. Let's take the break. When we return, we'll spend a little time introducing the topic of the day for our JPS guest, for when they join us at what, 8:30? At 8:30. All right. Let's take the break.
Best 100 FM is the authentic voice of Jamaica, promoting your prosperity with better vibes and better music. Let us promote your goods and services for you. Advertise with us. For more information, call our office at 876-276-8935. That's 276-8935.
This is your beloved Pastor Percy from the Morning Connection. Support our commitment to Jamaica by joining us on Wednesday mornings at 7:30 when we pray for the nation. Show us you care. Advertise with us. For more information, call our offices at 876-276-8935.
welcome back. In a short while, we're going to be joined by our guests from JPS. I'll just tell you who they are. Mrs. Camille Lumsden Dwyer. She is the manager of PMO and logistics. I'm not going to explain any of this because I want her to tell you what it is. But it involves project management, just to give you a hint. And she is going to be speaking to us about the recently concluded Developers Forum. You know, JPS is, like everybody else, responding to the increased, what they are calling, explosion of construction and rapid implementation of development projects across the landscape in Jamaica. JPS has had to adjust its internal processes to facilitate the efficient implementation of projects. They hosted a developers forum on Monday, October 30th, under the theme, Educate, Stimulate, and Building Partnership. And when Mrs. Lumsden Dwyer joins us, she will tell us what they did, the outcomes, and if you have some innovative idea that you want to get into the mix, we'll be sure to share with you how you can enter into a dialogue with JPS as they continue their pivoting to meet the demands of a growing Jamaica.
Expansion.
So, yeah, and I think she's accompanied by someone who will introduce himself because his name alone, Owasaki. Yeah, Owasaki. I think I got it.
Not Kawasaki. Owasaki.
But just to wrap up a little bit on this, I want to read to you the sections of law which our full court have preserved and maintained as being effective and valid under the laws of Jamaica.
I thought we were shifting.
Yeah, we're shifting, but I want to.
Okay, go ahead.
I want to let people hear the language. Whosoever shall be convicted of the abominable crime of buggery, committed either with mankind or with any animal, shall be liable to be imprisoned and kept to hard labor for a term not exceeding 10 years. Whosoever shall attempt to commit the said abominable crime, or shall be guilty of any assault with intent to commit the same, or of any indecent assault upon any male person, shall be guilty of a misdemeanor, and being convicted thereof shall be liable to be imprisoned for a term not exceeding 7 years with or without hard labor. So the misdemeanor is 7 years, and the felonious behavior is 10 years. Any male person who, in public or private, commits or is a party to the commission of, or procures or attempts to procure the commission by any male person of any act of gross indecency with another male person shall be guilty of a misdemeanor, and being convicted thereof shall be liable at the discretion of the court to be imprisoned for a term not exceeding 2 years with or without hard labor. There's an anecdotal, really humorous tale that in England, this law specified male person only because the Queen did not believe that women could
do that.
Yes.
So what she
She didn't believe that women could be homosexuals. So you notice it say any male person. It does not go on to say female person.
So tell me the story, man. You want to hear
That's the story. They said the law only addressed men. Male homosexuality did not.
Oh, I saw what you're saying. Okay. Oh, I saw
so
that.
women can go on to do various things which nobody thinks is grossly indecent.
This is just the male.
It's the men. Yeah.
Yeah,
I would if I were the men, I would complain and say that the women can be grossly indecent too.
That is.
Yes, most men think what women do is entertainment. They don't think of it as gross indecency.
Oh,
Yeah.
me don't think of it.
All
anyway.
right.
What we were.
There are one or two issues that I know you want to touch on before we take the next break. So I'm leaving the floor open to you.
No, I was just.
Every day, per se, you ask, what about the Prime Minister's declaration that can't be published? Yeah. And last night, the Prime Minister spoke about it.
He spoke about it?
Oh, you did not know?
No, I did not know.
You're too busy writing your master's
paper.
You
understand.
I forgive you.
No,
Yes.
man, no, man. And last night...
In the post-cabinet press briefing, a very bold reporter asked him a question and he answered. So naturally, you know that I think she was permitted to ask the question. That's what I believe. Because there were no follow-ups. There was no, and nobody else asked anything on it. Prime Minister said he's also concerned.
That's what I'm saying?
Yes, that the Integrity Commission has not published his declaration. And he says they have written to him and asked him various questions, and he has answered. And he's concerned that they have not gone ahead and published, that they have not published. But he says he guess they need to do their work, or like he hoped they do their work. He said something to suggest that hitherto they were not working.
At 2 years, that analysis. No, but let us put this.
And then he says he has remained silent. He has not commented on either their slothful behavior or their incompetent behavior. My words. He says he don't comment on it because as Prime Minister, he has to uphold the reputation, or he can't speak against the institutions of government.
We can let out the dogs to do it.
But to me, he's saying that if he were free to speak, he would criticize or condemn them for their either lack of competence or their slothfulness in how they have addressed this matter.
No, man.
All right, let me see.
No, but are you kidding?
Yeah, he say he's concerned too.
Are you what?
PM answer more Integrity Commission questions on statutory. All right. So, this story in today's paper says the Integrity Commission has asked Prime Minister Andrew Holness to respond to a second set of questions concerning his statutory declarations, the certificate of which has remained outstanding for 2 consecutive years. Holness made the disclosure. So it's really during yesterday's post-cabinet press briefing at Jamaica House, where he noted that he would seek to respond to the anti-corruption body by tomorrow. So on the news, they never carry the fullness. I didn't hear him saying he was going to answer anything by tomorrow. So he could never be saying that they're slow or dilatory in any way, since him still have answers to give. But he is concerned that they have not printed. Why are you concerned when you still have information for them? That don't make any sense. They have written to me asking various questions. I have provided answers, and they have written to me again, and I am in the process of providing those answers, the Prime Minister said in response to a question
from
TVJ's Jamila Maitland.
No, I could understand, my dear friend, if it was 2022. But this is from 2021.
Mm-hmm. Now listen to this part, Percy, which going to make what you say even more on point. Holness, who noted that he has to be very frugal with his time, said it was to be appreciated that it would take time for him to set aside days to vet the questions and respond. I hope to be able to respond to them before the end of this week. So I'm hopeful that they will do their work. This is what he was, because I heard him say he's hopeful that they will do their work and provide the nation with the necessary certification, Holness said. So he's compelling them to certify. So listen to me now. What the Prime Minister has said here, we now have to think whether when ministers, Prime Minister or not, are under review by the Integrity Commission, they should take a leave of absence so they are not pressed to find time to deal with such an important matter. Prime Minister is saying that he don't have no time to deal with because he's busy running the country and he has to be frugal with his time. But this is so important that he should be given a 2 or 3 days off. Do you see what I'm saying, Percival?
Because what you're saying, but
if you are on the review,
on the face of it,
yeah,
as somebody who thinks, if I'm running a corporation or a company, and questions come up that are pointing to my integrity, that's what it is, you know. That's what it is, you know. And you have been upfront, above board. It's 2 years running, you know.
So
and you take into consideration the onslaught that the Integrity Commission has come under over the last year.
if there were persons of lesser caliber, they would have all quit and we have a whole new batch dealing with.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm saying
They
to
were
them,
pressed.
when a new senator comes in and in his maiden speech in Parliament, he goes after the Integrity Commission. And he's been recently appointed by the Prime Minister as a young upcoming journalist. Really now?
All right, here's some other words from Prime Minister Holness. He said his silence is maintained out of a need to protect the country's laws and institutions. So I'm hopeful that in short order this matter will be resolved, adding that follow-up questions from the Integrity Commission were routine. So they've become routine for him. I can assure him that most people who file don't get questions at all. Has your wife ever got a question? Have you ever been questioned?
No.
It's not routine, PM. The fact that it's become routine for you means something is wrong. Do you understand?
Yeah, but
If it has become
he has not
routine
understood the
for
gravity of
him,
the situation.
yes, he thinks that it is not routine. Most people who submit their declarations, it is a simple arithmetical calculation.
That's
it
what
is
it
done.
is. You give it to me, you tell me the sources, we verify because
It is done because
So 2
you've told
years-
the truth. There's nothing complicated or complex about it. It makes sense logically stitching it together with the one from the year before and the year before and the year before. It matches up with your tax filings and it matches with your basic things. Here's what. So no, Mr. PM, if it has become routine for you, it means something wrong. They didn't tell him that. That's not routine.
But then this is the same Prime Minister when has he speaks in the vein that he's protecting the laws and institutions of
Oh
this
my
country.
goodness. Percy, it get worse. Holness also declared that it was not unprecedented for the commission to take a long time to certify his statutory declarations. He's confessing to be a persistent offender. Either you're not filling out the form right,
And it's something,
which means whoever doing it for you don't know what them are doing.
No, if everything is above board, and it does because we've had to do it.
Yes.
And my wife said, okay, your bank statements, everything.
Yes.
The-
I don't
the
think
way you owe
he
this,
appreciates
that-
how simple it is. And it gets easier. Each year you do it, you just pick up from where you were last year. Maybe the first time would be the hardest time.
Yeah, but
After that, it is easier and easier and easier. Absolutely.
yeah, but
Mr.
you see-
PM, you have just made it clear what the problem is. If it is not unprecedented for the commission to take a long time with your declaration, it means you have had a problem for a long time. And the poor commission must be digging up back to the first one.
But remember when we went and made the presentation,
Yes,
you know, it was
yes, yeah.
Edmund Bartley was the person who was chairing and Delroy Chuck was there and he was querying that if you made it last year, like 2 years ago, does the commissioner have the right to go back and
To
check?
reopen a
Yeah,
concluded
and they said yes,
declaration.
yes,
Of course,
because
because that's how they find the lies. Then says the PM, I suspect as Prime Minister, they would want to be very detailed in what they do. I would hope that there is no difference in my treatment than given to others. I would not want to think so, he said. So he's throwing shade at the Integrity Commission when it is clear that he is the only high-ranked government official who has had this problem.
And the other six.
Mark Golding, whose affairs I dare say are more complicated than his.
Yeah, because Mark has been in business and things. Yeah.
Mark was a private practitioner.
Yeah.
Mark have trust assets. Mark is a businessman. Mark is in opposition, so he has a lot more freedom to do things. And he is able to get his house in order. You know, we're learning now that despite the high level at which the Prime Minister operates, meaning in terms of his office, his affairs are not structured in such a way that professionals could, just as a matter of rote, address public filings that he knows he has to do every year, and he's been prime minister for what now? At 8 years?
At 8 years? 2 or
No,
6
over
or
the 2 terms.
Yeah, no, it was...
How long has he been in it? 7 going 8?
No, about... Yeah, that's all?
Yes, you stay there.
No, but then he has been in Parliament.
And he has been in Parliament.
For a very long time.
So where's your accountant? Where is your attorney who should have structured the documentation of your assets and your deals and your investments in such a way that at any time a report can be generated that looks at it? And at his level, he shouldn't even be carrying cash, so that everything is recorded and you know what you're doing in terms of your expenditures. Is it really 829? All right. When we get back, we're going to have our guest on. And then we have to return to these public matter issues because the Commonwealth caper is yet to be considered. Kamina Johnson-Smith is on the paper with the word vindicated. Really? Let's take the break. Welcome back to the Morning Connection. You know that we're here at the wonderful Ligony Club Gardens, and that, as usual, on Thursdays, we are back with our favorite guests. JPS does a program with us on Thursday mornings, and they have honored this. They have honored us this morning by sending not one but two persons. Welcome, Miss Camille, and welcome, Osawaki.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I was bold enough and just gently called the names, but I would like you to just introduce yourselves and tell us the area of specialty, and then we'll get into the conversation. Long time we not talk, so this morning will be fun.
All right. Thank you for having us. I am Camille Lumsden Dwyer, manager of the Project Management Office and Logistics. What that means is I'm a part of the bigger group or division called Energy Delivery, and we have several capital projects and capital programs that JPS would implement throughout our 5-year business plan. And my responsibility is to ensure that we implement those projects within budget, on time, and stick within certain constraints that we have, and keeping our project managers on track for that implementation.
Very important lady.
Yes. PMO, Prime Minister's Office.
Yes, you understand. That's where she operates from. And of course, Mr.
Very important. And we saw JPS ask, what is the budget again? How many billions for the new project that you want to?
About that one. Just yet. That one hasn't come
coming soon.
It's coming soon.
Coming
shortly.
Coming soon. So a lot of, you have a very busy future.
We do have a busy
yes.
future, and that speaks to the development of Jamaica and going into each area in order to provide electricity, to improve our infrastructure, etc., to make sure that happens successfully.
Wow.
Huge mandate. And the gentleman?
Morning again. I'm Asawaki Wickham. Currently, I'm the Director of Distribution Operations. Up until the end of September, I was HOD Engineering and Standards, where I was in charge of the standards, implementing some of the capital projects Camille spoke about. But currently, I manage the entire island, the distribution infrastructure. So don't call me if you don't have light.
You put that straight up there.
Yeah,
don't call us if you do have light. That means you are responsible for
ensuring that you have power at all times. So that's the aim.
Because, you know, because I am on the JPS app, I always get these things. So we're doing an outage there and the maintenance there, so regular.
Yes.
So what is causing that, my friend?
Jumping feet first person.
Varying reasons.
Yeah.
We have all infrastructure which need to be upgraded and renewed. We also have vegetation which accounts for 50% of our outages.
Oh, wow.
The terrain is not so easy. So due to the rain recently, we have customers who were cut off, so to speak, based on landslide, land slippage.
Did the earthquake result in any major disruption?
Yeah.
A little to our infrastructure at the transmission level, at the substation level, but we were quickly able to
stabilize that
and restore the customers.
Yeah. All right. Don't mind Percy here. What I want to hear about, I mean, when the list of reasons that could cause outages that you have just laid on the table means that it is a marvel that we have such reliable service.
Yes.
Because when it comes to the vegetation alone, in a country that is so verdant.
And I mean, it's happy that you can say you have reliable service.
And we do have reliable service.
I know there are other customers who
don't have the same experience. Yes.
And that's one thing we want to make better. We want to improve on our reliability, and we're going hard at it. Starting now, but even in 2024, we'll go harder.
But, you know, just even anecdotally, I know that some of the rural parishes have a worse experience than the corporate, more densely populated urban areas. Because my mom lives in the country and I get the phone calls.
Okay.
So I know you need to do something big in rural Jamaica, but I want to talk about the recently concluded Developers Forum, because I think a Developers Forum is one of the ideas or the institutions that you can use to advance the pace at which even your customers understand and participate in bringing that growth, which you say 2023 and onwards, we can expect to see greater reliability across the whole nation.
But so, was it your first such forum, or it is an ongoing thing that you do?
It's not the first. Each time we have the forum, we try to make it bigger and better. So the last time we gathered in a setting like this, I think it was 2019 or 2018.
Before COVID,
Before
just
COVID,
before COVID, yes.
And the construction industry is one industry that did not slow throughout COVID. It still construction was ongoing. So even when the suppliers of electricity had issues with our supply chain, construction was booming.
So this forum, the main target was the real estate developers?
Anybody who is into construction or
Aha.
any development, we wanted to reach out to them to have JPS be involved in their planning process from the inception or the conceptualizing of their projects. Particularly now, since COVID, we've had very good disruption that has impacted our supply chain. And of course, one of the more important pieces of equipment that they would use or material would be our transformers. That would provide power to
And that's
the
always
space.
in demand.
So whereas when we had the chairman of the Jamaica Developers Association on, as well as immediate past president Camille Douglas from the JIA, Jamaica Institute of Architects, on. So she was saying, I don't understand how is it that we don't have JPS involved, because we go to the
NWC.
GER and we go to NWC. So we said, certainly persons speak about the internals of the electricity being provided, but getting power to the specific space,
To the side,
larger space
yes.
on the outside, and getting that connected to our grid. That is something that you also need to take into consideration when you're planning your projects. And that's where the team that Mr. Wickham used to be in charge of would have come in to look at your designs and talk about how much power would be needed, etc. at first.
So let me ask the money ticket question. Does JPS offer as a product? Do you offer consulting services to developers where you sit at the table with them early o'clock and contribute to the design and development, or
Concept
you're only expecting to hear from them when they're ready to be a customer?
All right, so we do offer the consulting services. You have developers who will engage us early in the development. Just September, I know the Ministry of Health is planning a large project for Spanish Town Hospital, and they have engaged us already. We're looking at the requirements, looking at our infrastructure to see what improvement we need to undertake on our side, working through the designs with them. So we have other local developers who will ask us to complete those designs for them.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they pay you for that.
They pay us
that's
to do
great.
the engineering designs. So we do have that ongoing consultation, but not all. And we're not saying that we want all developers to come to us.
Yeah, but
because we
to
wouldn't
know
want
that the facility exists
Yes, we wouldn't
is
want
what
to kill
I'm
the profession in Jamaica.
highlighting.
And that save them the headache too.
Yeah.
Because you can imagine you are there
Yes, if JPS
planning a big thing and then JPS can say, we
Can't
can't
work
give no
that
power
way.
either way, you know. So that is a major thing.
And
Yeah.
that is why the early engagement. So
Yes.
it's not only to ask us to do the consultancy, but to engage us, let us be aware that
So,
this project
you
is
can
coming
plan
up.
and
Yes.
you know
So
what
we
you
can
need to
plan.
put in a
All
certain
right, I
area.
am going to Miss Camille, since you had just concluded the forum. I'm going to put a scenario to you and you tell me what the developer could have done better. Developer putting in between 50 and 150 houses in a fairly rural, a coastal community, but fairly rural. In the final days, needing now to connect to the grid, found himself against some tight timelines. I think it's completed now, but some of the challenges had to do with having contracted services show up on time and work consistently throughout. What could such a developer have done? And did you get issues like those coming out of the forum?
Well, yes, we got issues like that coming out of the forum, but what should that developer do
Yes.
if they're beyond the distribution network, not connected to the grid,
Yeah.
but they would have already started their construction? Well, first and foremost, they're gonna need transformers, and it depends on the type of project. If it's a design and build project, or is it just a regular major project?
It's they're designed and built
So you want to explain
two
design and build?
4-bedroom houses in a community that had service, but just this one development would have quadrupled
The
the
demand.
existing demand.
All right, let me try and answer that for you. So the scenario painted.
Yeah.
So that developer, one, should have got the electrical infrastructure, not the internals of the houses, but the pole line infrastructure, illustrating how they will be interconnected to the grid, the number of poles, the length of wires or conductors, the number of transformers, and so forth. And early engagement for the design review and approval process, and then for an estimate to undertake the construction. But one of the reasons why we know we needed to do the forum,
The forum.
was because even though each time we have the forum, we say it,
You say the
and
same
we
thing.
ask, and we make the request, and we beg.
And we're on radio now.
Yeah, we still have persons.
We just go ahead and do them thing, and then afterwards
wait.
them come and
Show
say,
up when they're ready to
and
give
then them
keys
cause
to the-
JPS go.
Yes,
Yes.
and we know, but they are our customers, so we
Try the
Have
best
to
to
facilitate.
try the best to facilitate.
Yeah,
So
because
what kind of attendance then did you get for your forum?
112
Oh.
persons of 150 that were invited.
That were
as a
invited.
part
Oh,
of-
so that's-
Oh, that
that's
is
a-
a high
that's
rate
great.
of success.
Right.
And did they participate? Did you get?
They did. And they asked many questions. We had a panel discussion. Of course, we were greeted by our president, Steve Burberg, our new president, and also the senior vice president for energy delivery, Blaine Jarrett. And then from there, we invited a supplier that we would have been partnering with to get in some of our items. And he was able to describe the impact of the logistics interruptions
Yes. On
globally
yeah.
on our, not only in Jamaica but also in the United States. So some of the things that he mentioned was that for electric utilities in the United States, what they have had to do is put in orders for the next 2 to 3 years. So the persons who will be providing us with equipment and material, they would be busy fulfilling those
orders.
And therefore, for the persons who are in the Caribbean, would need to go to other areas in order to get our supplies
Within a reasonable time
within
frame.
within a reasonable time
Yes.
frame now, because
Yeah.
we've had an extension in the time frame to receive certain materials. So, for example, we
So
have
are we all using the one supplier? Or I mean, how is that market? How does that market look?
All right, so
All roads lead to China?
no, nowadays, yes, are most roads.
okay.
But transformers predominantly we procure from the United States, Canada, for the pole mounted. That's the one they use in the developments.
Yeah,
For
Yeah.
the ones in our
Cool.
substation,
Yeah.
we go US, we go Colombia, and
They gone south now.
yeah. So even
Are
though
they're manufactured in those jurisdictions,
Yes,
or
they
they
do.
get it from somewhere
they
else?
do they
They're
do
They
manufactured
manufacture.
in
there,
Mexico,
yes.
Okay.
Mexico,
Okay.
Colombia, and the United States.
right,
So when you
and
do
Canada.
these forum, I should say fora, because Jamaica, we do like to say forums, but I'm old school, I say fora. So if you hear me say fora,
is-
I'm being technically correct. When you do these fora, do you expose to the market opportunities for either manufacturing or retrofitting or whatsoever it is that might ease some of these issues?
Yes, we do. Well, for this particular
Yes.
forum, we had invited maybe 6 players in the market who turned up. I think 4 or 5 of them
The
turned
6
up.
players of suppliers of equipment and
Electricity,
Or- yeah.
right.
Local suppliers.
Local
Local
suppliers.
suppliers. That is
right,
the
because
that's not the distribution. That's the person who actually generate.
no, so we're talking about Delta and
ABC Electrical.
ABC Electrical.
Oh, you're talking about that supply the parts. At
Yeah,
the,
they-
Right.
Yes,
Supply
yes, that's
different
what I
things,
was
but sometimes
asking
we buy
about.
from them as
Yeah.
well.
Okay.
So the thing is, we have been communicating that the lead times will be extended to our
What are we
customers.
talking about? Here you keep talking
Oh.
about lead times and the logistics with
So
pandemic.
for transformers,
Yeah.
we've moved from 6 months to 18 months.
And
Are you kidding me?
And
And
then
beyond.
when and
And
beyond,
beyond.
and when customers who would not have engaged us from
Early.
when they started,
So they're
come
in
at
your.
the end of the day, we're like, okay, we don't have
You're
the transformers
24
for you.
months. You're 24
So we're
months.
looking at 6 to 18 months. So it even becomes even more chronic for our customers to engage us early.
So what you're saying, let me translate this in terms of development. So I'm the developer. I go ahead and build house.
Yes. You
I
go
build
ahead.
house and I never talk to you and
Right.
say I'm going to need these transformers. And I come to you at the back end after me done build the house, but me now get my electricity
You're gonna be in
because
trouble.
oh wow.
and it happens. It's not so.
All right. So may I ask this
happens.
question?
We experience
Because you are planning and it's important to your revenue that you have a sense of the projected demand. Are you checking with the Prime Minister's Super Development Agency and having an estimation of what developments are coming on stream, even if the developers don't come to you? Is that a part of your internal planning?
Yes, we do projections. That's the logistics part of the
Yes.
PMO for energy delivery.
Yeah.
It's a big part of
We
it.
do material projections as best as possible based on the known knowns in project management. The things
Yeah.
that we know about, we can do projections for. But for the things that we have absolutely
No, because why I
no
ask
idea
is
about.
because it may take anything from 1 to 2 years for some developments to go through the approval process. But they're from they're logged at the municipal office. You can know that this somebody wants to build a 20, 20 house thing or a 50 or 100, and you can get a general scope. I'm making just
I know.
an inquiry because I know that in your planning, your grid is set to accommodate a certain level of demand, which is projected to include new customers.
It is. And
How conservative are your, or how
Your estimates.
aggressive are your
Because remember,
estimates?
in the summer we reach peak demand because of the heat. So
Yeah.
you would have been projecting
yes.
ahead for that.
And we actually studied.
Yeah.
We have algorithms that pretty much project what the usage will. And I want to tell you, we actually get it. We were like this close. So we knew based on the trend.
Your parameters worked.
Yes. And
Yeah.
we knew that we were going to see the peak
Yeah.
anytime around when we saw that peak.
So-
and we were like a few megawatts off.
Off. So now,
terms
with that
of,
level of
planning.
predictive analysis, I don't want to say AI,
And that's what
I
it is.
just say PA. With that level of predictive analysis, you could at any time say to the nation, hey, growth is happening on this trajectory.
Yes, we can. With the information that we
That you,
have.
yes.
So one of the things we're trying to do now is it was good that we had the
Forum.
the forum, and we invited persons from NEPA and from the architecture and the real estate. We want to get that information early.
Yes.
So even at the parish council meeting, we participate at those monthly meetings, but we want to try and get more information to see what is actually there. So where it's happening, where the development, where the long-term planning is, so that we can also be in alignment with
Yeah.
those plans.
I was thinking of them being proactive and having
That's what I was
some
thinking.
scouts
That's
out
what-
there who independent
What,
of
to
what
see
is
when they-
happening
to
with
see
the
when
parish
they
council.
clear the land.
And
Start dig up.
But because in order to help your planning, because as a project manager, you can only plan for what you know about.
And
Yes,
for
it's
some
a
of the
known
things,
and
the
some of
known
the
and the
unknown.
Yes,
unknown.
yes,
Yes.
it's a known and unknown
Yes.
to whatever extent you can.
To whatever extent that we
yeah.
can, because certainly we operate in a regulated industry.
Precisely. So that was
And
going
therefore we'll
to
have
bring
to
that
manage
in.
Expenditures.
Our expenditures
Yes.
and our cash flow, because certainly we can't spend
As
without
you
getting
feel a mind
approval
without.
from, at the various levels. Right?
So were the regulators a part of your forum?
Not in this particular forum.
Yes.
They weren't a part of it. Our
Yeah.
main target audience was our developers, and we're
Yes.
looking at, and we issued new letters So we certainly wanted them to take us into consideration, not at the back end of the project, but at the
At the
beginning.
planning, yeah.
They said that. So
Did
this
you
is-
accomplish your objective?
Yeah.
We did,
How you
certainly.
know?
And this is a part of it. And this is the next phase of our communication plan that we have this week in terms of media. We'll have emails and other phone calls that we need to make in order to get the feedback from us.
Well, I do have one developer who
sorry.
I would encourage to speak with you. Perhaps he wasn't involved in the forum because he's been on the ground at his side. But what you're saying, the structure you have, and your method of engagement, I think even understanding what his experience was would be instructive. So I don't think he was in your forum.
At all?
I don't think so. I didn't hear him mention it. And I did hear him mention a lot
Afterwards.
the challenges that he had
Yes.
getting the connection to the grid.
And if we have an email for him, we can actually include
Include
him
him in future. I'm definitely
No,
gonna
in
make,
in the circulation of
Oh,
the presentation.
as you do now.
As we do now,
Yes,
yeah, we can include.
I'll make that connection.
But that's
because-
important.
Yeah.
There's, even though you haven't gone there yet, I don't know if you intend to, there's one additional change that would have been made in terms of accessing that particular service. We built out that service offering application process within our MyJPS mobile
Oh yeah.
Okay.
and the JPS web app as well. So you can go online 24 hours a day
As a developer.
As a developer and
make
submit
your application,
your
which is different from the design review process
Right.
and approval of their drawings.
Yeah.
You can make that application online. Not only that, you're able to, one of the issues that we found out, because we did a survey before and we'll have a post implementation survey to do as well next year, since we are rolling out, customers were not able to track their application, see where they're at in the process, track their projects. And what we're building out in our mobile spaces on the portal, on your website, as well as on your phone, is that you can track your application and the progress.
See
of
where
your
it is at in the
construction
process.
progress.
So let me ask you this, given the level of attention you're giving it, do you have like a special product suite for developers?
How do I put it? I won't say we have a suite,
Yes.
but we reserve a space on our website where we
Yeah.
package information for the
Okay.
developers,
'Cause-
and they can get access to that.
Yeah, because one problem he had, I remember this particular problem. He had to pay for some material and supplies necessary to the implementation, and the funds were paid, and it took like 2 weeks before the receipt could be confirmed because it seemed to have gone into a general pool.
That's the case.
Yeah.
And one other thing that we do inform our customers to do is in the quotation letter we do
Yes.
explain it. Please reply with a copy of the receipt. It's quicker. It's easier because
So that was a very simple fix.
simple fix, and it's there in the communication.
All right. All right.
So-
We're gonna take a break
We're gonna
and then
take
we're
a
gonna
break and
come
come
back.
back.
Yes.
So we
About
can
for
do
5
our-
more minutes.
No problem.
All right. Thank you.
So in direct response to
We're off here. Yes.
Welcome back to the
Welcome
morning
back.
connection as we in the panel stretch with our guests this morning. It's been a very interesting conversation. But what I hear them saying, early engagement for the developers,
Yes.
and that gets you out of jail actually.
Possibly because there are some
The
there are
theme.
some offenses relating to the real estate board's
my.
portfolio.
Well, the theme for the forum was to educate, to
Yes.
stimulate, and build in partnership. The building partnership part was to invite some of our electrical suppliers locally that are in Jamaica operating in the space to assist us in providing some of those materials that we know that are hard to get.
So that's a beautiful business opportunity.
It's a beautiful
If
business
you had to put a
opportunity.
dollar value on it, you would say this is a what level of market value?
Ah,
Big business.
big business. Let's
You have
put
to
it
have
at
big
that.
bucks. Big
Yeah.
business.
No, what I'm exposing here to those who are entrepreneurial in their thinking, if JPS is waiting to spend $2 billion bringing in supplies from foreign markets, and this is just their effort, they are saying, come into partnership with us and you be a part of the supply chain.
Yes, that's
You-
exactly what we're saying.
Go around the world and find places, Indonesia, Thailand. There are many places that you can break into the market and become a supplier because the demand is there. And the conversation we're having off grid,
Grid.
off camera,
I like
which
that one.
which I wish I
Off-grid.
could bring.
No, I don't like that one.
No, you don't want off grid.
No,
No money for you.
No money for you if it is
No
off
pun,
grid.
no pun intended.
But that conversation, is a real. It just was just highlighting some of the deep complexities and the huge opportunities in what you do. Wow. Usually it's like half an hour, half an hour, but the time really flies. I have appreciated the conversation with you. I want you to wrap up. I know you're going to have the forum again. I'm sure you may have to do it twice for the year at the rate that
Maybe in
things go.
different media.
With different
Yes.
different focus. But what would you say now in closing? You had a wonderful forum. You want to thank the people who made it so.
I do. We did have a wonderful forum, and we're thanking the persons for sticking around even throughout what happened
The
that
earthquake.
particular day. It made for an interesting discussion, and they got to air some of the things that we need to adjust within our internal processes, and those are some of the things that we are going to be looking into fixing as we move along, because we're doing continuous improvement.
Yeah.
Right, and this isn't the end of that engagement. We want persons to continue to engage us early so that we can meet their needs, because obviously we want them on the grid as well,
As
and we
early
want
and as
their-
early as possible.
and we want their projects to be successful and not be held up because of anything having to do with us. Yes, we want their projects to be successful, certainly.
So I have one question for you, Mr. Osawaki.
The director
It is
of-
from my 16-year-old son who has an interest in lighting infrastructure, and he wanted to know to what extent JPS takes into account light pollution in their choice of
Lighting
devices,
infrastructure.
lighting infrastructure, even just the aesthetics of how you provide lighting in public spaces.
Oh my. Let me try and see how best I can answer that one for him. So we, over time, since 2013, or it was actually 2012, we saw where the industry was going with lighting. And that's when we completed our technical specification for LEDs. And LEDs is light emitting diodes. And diode is just an electronic device which keep the flow of current in one direction. So we realized that with our high pressure sodium, the old HPS, you have light, you really want the light on the road, but you have light in the houses, behind you, along over somebody's house, on their veranda when you really need it on the road. So I'm not sure if your son is actually speaking to our new LEDs or he's speaking to the old
sodium. Yes, he mentioned that.
Yes.
So you're saying you're on it.
We're on it.
You're
And
on it.
we do
Yes.
consider the environment in
Yeah.
all we do.
Yes. The truth is, he's not on the roads often enough. So I'll take him on a tour.
You could take him up to the Palisades
Or
Street
even in the New Kingston here.
Yes.
Yeah, they could visit
yes.
New
and look at the
Kingston.
difference between the LED lights and if you can find a sodium light.
You probably
Okay.
won't find one
Yes,
now.
we probably
But
because
If
you've
you
been
can find
changing
a
out.
Yes,
We
You've
have,
changed them
we have
out.
been.
over
All right.
time.
But
Yes.
there's one thing though. Internal to a development, a developer will choose the light that he wants to have on his development, and maybe or in his development.
Might see those infractions in
Yes.
private developments, but
Yes.
in your he was talking about public spaces.
Okay.
So you get an A for that answer. I'll make
You're
sure he
grading,
hears
you're
it.
grading,
I'm grading it.
Yeah, what
Yes, because my son gave me a crash course. He wrote a document to his parents making recommendations on what we need to do for lighting around the house, not
Okay.
in the house, in the gardens, and you know.
Wow.
Yes, and I told him you were going to be our guest today.
Awesome.
And he did make a comment. He said, "Didn't know if JPS is really thinking about it."
Okay.
So you get an A because you're not only thinking about it, you're doing it.
But I'm giving them an A for their presentation and the knowledge and the fact that you have done this forum mean that you're being proactive.
You're being, yes.
Very proactive
Yes.
and dealing with the situation.
The partnership
The
continues.
partnership continues.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you too.
All right, so he's 16.
All right, so
All right, so my 16-year-old son, who is a hard taskmaster, will be pleased. You're departing.
yeah, man,
All right.
it was good.
We're,
but
we're saying good.
okay.
Yes. No, well, at this point now, we get to talk about what the guests did. And I don't want them to leave. I want them to hear our review. I am always very impressed by the extent to which JPS is showing itself to be a very socially progressive, development-oriented partner.
Yeah.
JPS was the company everybody loved to hate.
I know
And
they're becoming
they've endeared themselves even to me, who I had one mission in life. It was to be off the grid. But we do appreciate the time that they spend with us.
Yeah,
And I'm
and-
glad to have them back at the table with us. So to our developers, and you know, the area of construction is one of the areas in which the promised transfer of wealth
Yes.
is taking place at a rapid pace, meaning any Jamaican who can afford to buy 2 or 3 acres of land, sometimes even 1 acre, because you can do a 4 townhouse or whatever development, and you're in the game. So those
You need to tell them to
persons
start early. With the
start
concept
early,
after you buy the land
yes.
and you know that's what you're gonna
Yes.
build on. Get in
Yes,
touch with them
because,
and say,
surprise, surprise, it's not a given that when you're ready to attach to the JPS grid,
You'll have it
that
too.
they have capacity for you. It's not a given. And the fact that they're a regulated service means that the money they spend building their business and maintaining their business has to be approved by the regulator. And this is something that, Percy, I think, even for our Prime Minister who handles that development portfolio, there must be a way that we can allow entities that make their money from a regulated price charge, service charge, those entities can be insulated in their planning for future big demand
yeah.
without being constrained by the cap.
But you know
I'm
what?
just thinking
But you
that
know
that's a
what?
necessity.
But one of the things that they said that really, I don't know if it shocked me, but
Yeah, Chuck, you want a pun. I give it to you.
is that to get like transformers move from 6 months to 18 months and then
It could even be as much as 3 years.
And then if you're doing a big development and you're going to need transformer to pull the energy down to 110 or 220, whatever it is at, you need to tell them. And if you have a big development of how much houses, 10, 20, whatever, you need to
Yes.
bring the thing down.
You see, when we get the land policy, so remember now, we are big on
Land policy.
the reform of the use of land. When we get that settled and we understand where the development areas are, what the density is that we're anticipating, we can do better planning and projections for all of the entities, JPS, the telecoms people, the water people. You can get that integrated planning
Going
done
forward.
with
You get
more
smart cities or
accuracy.
smart development.
We're talking about smart cities and connected cities, which includes the demand on the grid.
No pun intended, but we're talking about smart
Got a
cities.
pun
but
again. Very funny this morning.
No, but we're talking about smart cities, but we just need to get some of the basic things going before we move to smart cities.
No, we have to have a smart city as a model,
That's
as
what you
something
think.
that is aspirational to those who want to understand it and see how it functions.
You see that
If
word
it is-
aspirational?
Yeah, I
You don't
love
like
it.
You don't
I
like
love it.
You don't like it.
Jamaicans love it. Jamaicans exist in that zone. You just want to show them something
A vision.
that looks great and that, because we like to be on the cutting edge, small as we are, every type of high-end car can be found in this nation. And there are smart houses in this nation
I know.
already.
I know,
My
I know.
husband is busy trying to convert our old plantation style colonial house
Into a smart house.
Of course.
Yes.
And Daniel is right there now. He's telling us about making the gardens aesthetically pleasing and more efficient with the lighting infrastructure. That's
right.
a boy who knows what he's going to do in his generation. There are some things that when he speaks about them, I say, okay, this is what you will do when it is yours.
It is yours.
That time is coming
that one the
as sure
past
as
we are
Nightfaller's
gone.
Day.
No, but it's
But
interesting.
I
Yeah.
think a model smart city, and I'm hoping that our JPS partners will come one morning to talk to us about the smart city, because it's powered on two things, energy and the telecoms infrastructure. You can't even talk about it until you have those like water.
Yeah.
You understand? That's the base. That's the platform on which it's built. Is that Mr. We're speaking to Osawaki now. If that is your division, Mr. Osawaki, we are inviting you to come back. But
You know, Smart City Forum though.
I know that JPS
JPS
had a
was
smart city forum.
forum.
Mr. Producer, can I put back Miss Lumsden? It's extra time.
Oh, really?
I want to hear about the smart city forum.
Okay.
Because that's the next level. Percival,
Tell you,
to me,
persons who would be.
is the microphone back on for her? Okay, so you can use the microphone.
What was it?
When
Smart
was
City
the Smart
Forum.
City Forum?
It was earlier in October, I believe.
In this year?
Yeah, man, they did
Oh,
already there.
Maybe
I
about 2 or
missed
3
it.
weeks before. It was at the Jamaica Pegasus, planned by our colleague Damian Brackett and the Corpcom team as well.
May I beg you to share with me some of the documentation that came out of it? Like how
I
you
will
have
ask.
things coming out of your
I
forum.
will ask,
Yeah,
certainly.
Yeah, my great love is
And
telecoms.
it was in partnership with
Was it Digicel or
everybody
Floor?
everybody
Yes.
almost,
Yeah.
including parish council. The mayor was there. Yeah, it was a very big. It was bigger than our forum, and involved a lot more persons.
Were you in attendance?
I was in attendance.
So is there a model city or a community to be
New
set up
Kingston.
as a pilot?
New Kingston, they're
is
thinking
the
of
pilot.
using.
Yeah, I've heard that being touted, but I didn't
Yeah.
know if it was imminent.
It was very aspirational. It's becoming a reality now. I could have missed that one.
Well, without what was that saying about vision and people perish?
People certainly perish.
Yes, yes. So
that
we have
is
to have
something to look
something
forward
to
to
inspire
and to
us
dream.
and something
Yes.
to dream about
Yes.
and something to work towards.
Boy, I
That's
tell
And
you.
why our
Jamaicans
children are there.
flourish under that kind of
Oh,
provocation.
absolutely.
Of being
do.
inspirational.
Aspiration, yes, man. You just want to make it look exclusive and happening and the thing of the future.
Right.
And we cotton on to it and we begin to direct our
I'm
minds
sorry, I don't
to
remember the
getting
name
there.
of the group, but they did an extensive presentation on what the smart city would look like in
Yes.
New Kingston, involving having more living spaces in New Kingston, having persons walk through like a marketplace similarly to how you would do it in Europe. And it painted a very lovely picture in my
yes.
mind.
Yes, so you're booking
right
your
now,
apartment.
She buying a place.
I'm just saying it is an extensive project
Yes.
that is ongoing, and persons who are working on the project. It's not JPSN per se. The entire
There would be
team.
many partners in
Right, so
such a
I'll
project
definitely,
of that nature.
Get Audrey and Damian Brackett.
Yes,
involved
we're
to
making
come
a
back and
request.
they can speak to it for sure.
I'll beg Miss Winsome to put something in the project
Yes,
that
yes.
she does with us.
Yes, please.
I could bring it
Yes,
here
please,
because
certainly.
we want to give Jamaicans something beautiful and exciting to look forward to. All right, let's see where we are. All right, thank you again very much
All right,
for
bye.
entertaining us. We're going to switch horses now and look at some of the current affair issues
All right, guys, bless you.
that are making the news.
Oh,
I love that segment, first
I
of
mean,
all.
I love it. I love the aspirational and thing. You know, being aspirational is
Yes.
is a bad word in this country.
I mean, that's what you're bossy and you're...
No, no,
What it
no.
mean? Why
No,
is
the
it a bad
political.
word?
No, it came when at the last debate somebody was saying how much houses they have, and
Yes.
and it was commented on. Said I was being very aspirational. That wasn't the reality. So I that's why.
Really?
Yes, yes, yes.
Does it involve declarations to the Integrity
Oh my
Commission?
Lord. You got no there back already.
Yes,
You know?
no, no, you said houses that we have.
Houses
How
that
many
were built,
houses?
and they said, but we look at the actual figures. Where are these houses? Aspiration is where we need to go.
Yes, it's where we need to go.
Yeah, but
That's, Percival, that's a big issue we were just addressing there with JPS. And I admire their proactiveness
yes, I
in
really
bringing
do.
the developers to the table. I was saying to you that construction is one of the areas where the greatest transfer of wealth is taking place. I call it transfer of wealth. Law enforcement people like to say money laundering.
Okay, I'm listening. Yeah. That's a nice shift. Go ahead, I'm listening.
Yes. No, because anyone who can purchase 2 or 3 acres or inherit it or claim it and get title for it is in a fit position to build wealth by developing the land.
Okay.
And typically persons who are sort of wandering into it as a first move in building wealth are not educated on the nuances of how do I make sure that everything flows smoothly and on time. JPS Forum is the forum they just concluded is one of the places that if you go there, you would
learn
get
all
the
it
kind of
is.
knowledge. So she has kindly promised to send me some of the communication, and I am going to get it and share it when I'm here. So persons who, if you have, dear Lord, even if what you have is the space to build 2 apartments in your backyard, you can be in the game because those 2 apartments can become income generating assets
for people.
that be a part of what takes care of you and yours as time goes by. It's good to know how to go about doing it properly. And in our bid to embrace greater use of land and so on, I would encourage people who have land to think sensibly about how they can develop it. It's time for the letter.
Yeah.
It's like letter of the day. You have a new segment.
But I don't know if it's letter of the day, but this is very disheartening to me to read the contents of it.
Start with the positive, Percival. What's the positive?
They are positive in it?
Yes, the positive is
That
a citizen, a resident from St. Thomas, and I hope you are listening. Percival and I thank you very much for reaching out to us concerning an issue which is obviously near and dear to your heart. It's a big issue. You see, we have a heart for issues concerning the disabled and the treatment of the disabled in this nation. We got a letter, 2 letters actually, from a resident of St. Thomas. That is how it is described. It's written anonymously, but they took the time to send it to us by mail.
2 times.
2 times saying the same thing. Someone from a district called Knightsville Baptist. Is that a district, or it's Knightsville is the
a church? From Knightsville Baptist, a church.
Okay, in Yala, St. Thomas.
Yes, and
you go ahead now, Percy.
Saying that there's discrimination that is happening against persons who are blind. They try to take the taxis, and if they see that they're blind, they push them away. The robot buses push them away also. It's the same thing. That the blind people are coming on the bus, the doctor push away the blind people. So they are ill-treating the blind people. So I'm really calling upon them to do something for the blind people. And they were saying one of the solutions would be to have JUTC buses move around and take care of the blind people and others in St. Thomas. You know that there's a call recently for the JUTC to be moved from just Kingston and St. Andrew and St. Catherine to other places.
Yes.
Yeah,
because it should be a national service.
Because see, not to spending $12 billion a year, $8 to $12 billion a year is in terms of subsidizing them.
Yeah, and they are losing $11 billion a year.
Yep. So that's where the subsidy going. They're losing, so you put it back in. It come from our coffers, so you put it in, so they aren't in. No, sir.
But it's a very serious issue. We see all the time. I
And
had
transport authority, they say need to
I
come on
had
the
an
road and St.
experience,
Thomas.
Percival. You see where I live?
Yeah.
One morning, the police ran an operation somewhere close to my gate. Police and Transport Authority stopping, public transport and running whatever checks. And one morning, they actually required all the passengers to disembark at my gate.
Okay.
And amongst the passengers
Was a blind
was a
person.
blind man.
Oh, jeez. So
And
what the poor man must do?
I took him to Halfway Tree.
Oh.
I took him to where he was going.
I am
Was it me alone or it was me and Lowell?
I'm so proud of you.
Well, thank you for being proud, but
that is what we need to do at Jamaicans.
That's like an easy decision. So the man comes off the bus, no one attending him, just a passenger who was nearby helped him to cross the road, but was now going to look about his own movements. And I'm wondering, I'm like, what's the police doing? First thing, it caused me to say, Mr. Transport Minister, when the Transport Authority or the police find a driver who is in breach of the law somewhere, and it is necessary for that person for the bus to be seized right on the spot, I don't know what could be so necessary.
Because I know the buses, it go on a certain route, issue them with a summons, allow them to finish the road, because it means that they're not thinking about the other passengers at all. And I see it happen all the time. Transport authority, them say we are doing our work, we enforce the law, but them not thinking about the people. And that builds resentment in people, because them say, so we're not going away. We're not going away.
And sometimes the passengers are left. If you've paid your fare already.
Because if you pay your fare when you enter the bus. That is why they take the fare early, you know. You know that?
Yes, but I don't blame them.
No,
I don't blame them. You pay on entering because after you deliver the person, is that when you're going to fight him for money? Every public system, bus system in the world, when you step up in, you put your money in the thing.
Entry,
and if you notice, you drop it in a place from which you cannot take.
You can't take it back out.
Yes. So when the police are doing their work and they find it necessary to seize a bus, they should at least they need to have the capacity to accompany the bus to a point where passengers can be safely deposited.
Yeah. And that is, we're here to reassure and protect, and it's time to reassure you that the break has come up on us.
I accept it. All right, we'll be back for the last segment in a little while. Please stay with us.
Welcome back to the Morning Connection, even as we had a wonderful segment with the Jamaica Public Service personnel, Ms. Dyer and Mr. Wickham.
Mrs. Dyer
and Mr. Wickham. You love to say his first name, don't you?
Yeah, what is it again? Osawaki?
Yes.
Turn it around.
But we go to matters of state. One, we spoke before of the Prime Minister's lengthy explanation at the press conference.
Oh, yes, concerning his own concern.
His own concern.
About the non-publication.
So why 2 years
of his
in a row it
declaration.
has not been released. And it is of grave concern to us. But then again, we seem to be the only person who speak against it, because you don't hear the public, the private sector of Jamaica, you don't hear the churches or anybody issuing a statement. So I'm wondering if...
Oh, well, he spoke last night, and many are probably chewing over his statement to
say something about it.
Yes, I don't need to chew it over. I already came to some conclusions. The declaration he made, that it is routine for him to be questioned repeatedly on his declarations.
That's not a good
That is a worrying trend.
That's not a good look.
And I want him to know, if no one has told him, it is not routine. It is not routine for you to be cross-examined so intensely on your declaration, because your declarations year on year should display sufficient integrity for the commission to be
questioning.
Reassured in good time.
Yeah.
The years that it is taking you, Mr. Prime Minister.
2 years.
That should worry you greatly.
And it should worry all of us as Jamaicans.
Yes.
In terms of...
Well, it's going to worry him more because the next step is illicit enrichment, which involve some much stiffer penalties and legal action.
It does?
Of course, if the next step, if they are finding it so difficult to either accept what he says or to come to the conclusion that what he says is correct, then they must recommend
that he be referred to the DPP for...
If after 2 years they can't be comforted, there must be a recommendation going somewhere else where a different kind of scrutiny and a deeper analysis can be done, so he can be put in the clear or dealt with if there are other findings.
Wow.
So he should be very concerned.
So that have serious implications then.
Of course.
But
and I think that's why you say he's concerned.
So do we recognize on the face of Lord help us, what is potentially down the road for us as a country?
Of course, and that's why so many ask about it, because we understand that the delay, the Integrity Commission's inability to certify his declaration means it can only mean one of a very narrow.
It's something gone wrong.
And that's why he's concerned. He has to be concerned.
So is it so? Art. It seems that the puzzles, the bits of the puzzles
pieces are falling
are
in place.
coming in. Wow.
Yeah, but let's spend a little time with Mrs. Kamina Johnson-Smith. The headline vindicated is aspirational, and this is how the Gleaner stay. How could what transpired be considered vindicated, a vindication of Kamina Johnson-Smith? The first thing is, the judge came to the conclusion that she was being trafficked by her own government. That is how I summarize a judge finding that Kamina Johnson-Smith was not bidding for the position in a personal capacity. She was being put forward by the government of Jamaica.
So let me ask
you. Is that slavery? If it's not slavery, what is it?
No, but let me ask you one question.
A job that she must take in her personal capacity.
Because she wouldn't,
she's not the one vying for it. It is the government of Jamaica who is campaigning for her and putting her forward. I don't know what the judge means by that. And I'm just quoting from how the
statement,
how the Gleaner has reported on it. The Gleaner says, I'm going to that because they also said Mr. Rattigan had no standing. But then they very quickly said, as the judge always puts it, even if he did, there is simply, in my view, not sufficient, no evidence of the breaches that the claimant is asking the court to find.
And that is based on the fact that she was put forward by the government.
Yes, they say it's not she looking the job, it's the government of Jamaica looking a job for her, I guess, putting her forward. and the monies paid by the Jamaican banking executive and Grace Kennedy was
And-
paid to the
and
government
Scott, yeah.
to fund what they were doing on her. I can't even say on her behalf, because it's not on her behalf.
On the government's behalf.
And the government is doing something. So it sounds like the government is trying to sell her. I don't know how else you could look at it.
Yeah, because that's what Judge Staples said when he found it.
The judge
the money
says,
would have been
and I
given-
guess they're quoting now because they don't want to make no mistake by trying to summarize what the judge is saying. The evidence presented shows that Johnson Smith was not acting as a private individual in her candidacy for Secretary General. At this point, the Commonwealth Office must be saying, I'm so glad she lost, because we didn't know that we were not getting her. We were getting
The
a proxy for the government of
Jamaica.
Jamaica.
Because
Because
that's
the
what
government
they-
of Jamaica can't do the job.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm not understanding. Because
Not only that, Kamina herself had gone on record saying that it was a job for her. It was her job. She was seeking a job, which would have meant leaving her current post as minister to go take up a job.
that was in our private capacity.
It was a private
It's not-
capacity.
yeah.
But the court says she was not acting as a private individual. The principal actor was the government of Jamaica, who put her forward as its candidate. So the judge don't know that governments can't occupy the seat
as Secretary General
of Secretary General.
You come from a
went
country.
against the wrong party. Should have gone against the government of Jamaica.
Well, the claim was actually against the ministry as an office of the government and Johnson Smith personally. So I don't know if he then went on to find that the ministry didn't declare it. So the monies would have been given to the government of Jamaica for the benefit, not of the first respondent in a private or personal capacity, but of the government of Jamaica, so they could field her as their candidate.
You know, so
And
something
I'm
wrong with that.
Of course.
Something wrong
because
with that. That
in
mean
the
that-
public domain was the fact that the agreement was between Johnson Smith and Finn Partners. It
Yeah.
wasn't between the government of Jamaica and Finn Partners.
No, but you know, so we have that means that means Percival Palmer. If him have two change,
Yes.
him can go pay the government and say, put me as a candidate for something me run. That's
Yes.
what it means.
Yes, that
but
these things are for sale.
and that raises even wider issues. That means that
To go serve a Commonwealth office. Well, guess what? The government's desire to give her away to the Commonwealth, I'm sure they were wishing it had happened, because the no vote at the United Nations General Assembly is a shameful, embarrassing affair.
you know.
So if she was in the
untangled-
Commonwealth,
untangled is
you're
the
saying how
web.
tangled is the
the
web we weave?
Yes.
When first we practice to deceive?
Yes.
I know that saying.
So that means that this is what has happened to us. So we had that, and that means we have been rejected enough. All right, so let us
Well,
say,
Rattigan is going to the Court of Appeal. Let's see what they do with it.
because here's what happened. So here it is. The government put her forward. The rest of the Commonwealth reject Jamaica. You know that we have gone way down in terms of how people see us in our
Yes.
foreign policy.
Yeah.
And then
well,
we have this thing now with the vote on the humanitarian aid, and we were missing in action. And then we hear it's a technical thing.
Okay, so what did the Prime Minister say? The Prime Minister says it was unfortunate. He says it was regrettable. I don't remember if those were his precise words. And then he said a most astounding thing, that steps were being taken to see if we could rectify the no vote and get on record with a vote. Now,
As we normally do in the local
no,
election.
we have to do our best to make sure that what Lowell said it's not captured on air. But suffice it to say, this business of thinking that a vote is not final is a novel idea. Except, of course, we know that ballot boxes are taken and votes are changed.
Oh,
But
gee.
that really is not routine, to borrow a word from the Prime Minister.
That's not routine.
That's not routine. Votes are final when cast.
I will miss the moment.
So former ambassador or retired ambassador Curtis Ward
Say, absolutely
got a
not.
headline this morning that says, "No late vote." It's not possible. He's never heard of such a thing. Where in the world could people vote and then you go and say, well, you know what, I want to vote? Yes, but now I'm just going to vote with the majority.
You know, Martin Luther King said, and I quoted it yesterday when we closed, you know where a person stands, not when everything is hunky-dory, but when in the moment when the fire reach you, then you know what somebody really stand for. But no, but that's the integrity.
Integrity is
it's
under pressure right now. Wow. It's 9:48. I didn't even realize how quickly the time had
I think
flown.
we've enjoyed this morning.
We have enjoyed this morning. And welcome back, JPS.
Yeah.
The subject matter was intriguing, to say the least.
And was close to home.
Yes. I don't think Kamina or Minister Kamina Johnson-Smith should accept the word vindicated as being meaningful just yet.
But she said
she has not been vindicated. In fact, she's been made to look rather silly by this strange finding by the judge that it was the government of Jamaica that was fielding her as a candidate, and she was entering into personal contracts with Finn Partners. Anyway, whatsoever the case might be, the truth has an annoying habit of coming out.
Yeah.
And these days with artificial intelligence and divine intervention.
No, before there was artificial intelligence, there's always been divine intervention. We can stand upon that rock, which is where I stood this man.
Yes,
this man was under the rock, but no, I'm standing on the rock and say, boy, Father, you know, he searches the hearts of men to see if he'll find any that is towards him, and then what he does, he begins a process of elevation, like what he did with David. It's not that David was a perfect person, He was not, but his heart was towards God, and we need leaders in our country whose heart are towards God and the things of God in terms of the righteousness and the justice and the truth and the mercy. How much longer will we continue to have what I call a form of godliness, but denying the real power that will bring about the transformation? Jamaica?
Wake up!
Yeah, Jamaica. We are in serious times. And we individually have to make decisions, and in our communities as a nation, to say, what do we really stand for? I do believe that what has happened with this ruling by
Justice Staples is the judge who
is that, but then the bigger one in terms of the one in terms
of
Maurice Tomlinson,
the full court,
even though I think that is the sentiment of a lot of Jamaicans in regards to homosexuality, buggery, and so on. That's why when it came out, I saw a lot of things all over the place, and people are rejoicing. But we'll see greater still what must happen as we move forward.
Yeah, I like where you were going with that, because we didn't finish. It is an 84-page judgment or something of that order. 3 judges each expressing their view and showing how they came to the decision.
Was that 3-0? Was that 3-0?
I think it was. I don't believe there was a dissenting viewpoint. So it's a long read, but I think if you are interested in to see how law is interpreted, it's a good read for someone who wants to push to see fundamental rights and freedoms being treated more seriously in this nation. It's good to understand how the judges think and how they come to their conclusions. For my part, I would like our courts to move away from technical decisions. Don't rest on technical points.
Technicality.
Open up the substance of the matter and discuss where we ought to be applying the principles of law, which are all about righteousness and justice and fair treatment and so on. That is what I would like to see our judges do with more vigor. I didn't like the fact that they just use the savings clause. But that's the issue that they were deciding, because the Court of Appeal said, if you handle that issue, you don't have to deal with the bigger issue. And the truth is, that's how law works, to be honest. That's how the courts work. If there is an issue which, when properly resolved, would take away the necessity to go into the meat of the matter, they will use that. But sometimes an issue is so grave and is so worthy of national discussion that it's good for you to step into it. And the judges who are interested in building jurisprudence and pushing the nations forward, they do that. They said, yes, this is what it means on the technicality. If I had to go into it on substance, this is where it would come out. And if the two are at odds, they would say, Parliament, do your work. The people really want this. You have kept us here with the phrasing of the law. There is a need for reform.
Okay.
Enough said on that score. May I just thank those who joined us on air and online. Back in the studio, Lloydie, right here, our producer and co-host, Pastor Percival Palmer, who's going into a weekend.
Finish.
Approaching the finish line. I wish you all the best, my brother. Have a good weekend, everyone, and, God bless.